Okay, we'll continue our chapter on civilizations of the Americas. This will be page 2 today. At about the time of Christ's birth, we have the first true city of in the Americas. It was known as Teotihuacan in the Valley of Mexico. And in the center was the Pyramid of the Sun. Not as tall as those in Egypt, but still considerable size. The base was 3,000 feet around. Not quite as steep, but still very large. This area here was called the Avenue of the Dead, I believe, with lots of other smaller temples around that. These people were skilled in their arts and crafts. Approximately 8 square miles comprised this area, and home to as many as 150 to 200,000 people. Their god was named Quetzalcoatl. He gave them all good things of civilization, like farming, writing, their calendar, and their arts and crafts. And so Quetzalcoatl was the Teotihuacanos' most important god, and he was also known as the feathered serpent. So right in here, the Toltecs may have occupied the area after the Teotihuacanos, and we will be talking more about the Toltecs here in a little bit. Moving on with the Mayan civilization, they developed on the Yucatan Peninsula. So you can see this little map here. Here's Gulf of Mexico, and Mexico comes down, and then it goes back up, and that part right there would be the Yucatan Peninsula. They developed into city-states. They had wide paved roads made from packed earth. They were active in trade with things like honey, cocoa, cotton cloth, feathers, and also their calendar was one of the most accurate ever developed. Now this is around AD 300 to 900. So this is their calendar. They believed that the world was going to end in 2012, and so I have this little cartoon. It's kind of fun. I guess I could hold it up. So it says the Mayan Doomsday Advent Calendar. It's got the little things like you open up on an Advent calendar, pull out the candy. And then the little boy said, "Sorry, Ma, I just couldn't wait for the end of the world." So anyway. All right. So the largest city at this time was Tikal, possibly the largest in the world. And their pyramids were the tallest things built throughout the world until 1903. They were the tallest structures until the Flatiron Building was built in New York City. So they had a strict social order that was led by priests, nobles, and warriors. They're mostly men, but some carvings do show women that were ruling for their young sons until they became of age to be able to rule on their own. Most of the Maya people were peasants, and their civilization collapsed, but no one really knows why. They're not sure of exactly what happened. And so by 900 AD, the Mayans had abandoned their cities. Teotihuacan was invaded and destroyed. The Toltecs took over in central Mexico until they were conquered by other invaders. And this is between 650 and 800 AD. The Toltecs ruled for a couple of centuries in central Mexico with their capital at Tula. The Aztecs came from the north, and they said that the gods had led them to the Valley of Mexico, that they were to search for a sign. This is the late 1200s. When they saw an eagle perched on a cactus holding a snake, they regarded this as the sign that they should settle. In the textbook, It said that the god had told them to look for that specific sign. So anyway, when they found it, that's where they settled. Oh, sorry, I kind of got ahead of myself. So yeah, so here's the area. There's a sign, the picture of the eagle perched on a cactus holding a snake. And let's see. Oh, the Aztecs borrowed from other people their calendar and writing system from the Toltecs. So a lot of similarities with many of these different groups. And you know, we've got the three major ones, the Aztec, Inca, Maya, but we've talked about the Olmecs. We're discussing the Toltecs. There's one called Chichimecs and many other groups that were living in these areas. Okay? All right, Tenochtitlan was their capital city for the Aztecs, and they built a village on an island in a lake where Mexico City now stands. The name of the lake was Lake Texcoco. Causeways were there and linked the island with the mainland, and the canals brought them fresh water. The people wanted to increase the amount of farmland, so to do that, they built many small islands that were made of dirt, vegetation, mud, and they called these chinampas. And as they continued to build these, it gradually just filled in this whole area until today, of course, we don't see a lake when we look at Mexico City. So trade and tribute held the empire together, not political organization. And tribute is a payment from conquered people. So some of those things I mentioned, cocoa beans, feathers, honey, whatever, those types of things were given as payment. And so if I'm the leader and I would expect these things from you, and if you pay them, then that's signifying that you are a conquered person. So that was tribute. And this is how they were able to control these people that they had conquered, was to demand this tribute from them. So this should be our last one today. The priests encouraged warfare for the purpose of gaining prisoners for sacrifice. The human heart, it was believed, needed to be given to the sun god Huitzilopochtli. And the Spanish brought an abrupt end to the Aztecs' power. So they, again, Huitzilopochtli, they felt like if they didn't offer these sacrifices that the sun would not shine. There's quite an interesting movie called Apocalypto. It's rated R because of the violence, the blood that's in it with the sacrifices. But it shows them going out to this other village and tribe and capturing them and bringing some of the men back to their village and then just offering sacrifices. This one man protects his wife and child by putting them down in this hole, and then he later is able to get back to them. It's a great movie, but one interesting thing I like about it, so I think in the process of going down in, the baby got a cut on its arm or hand, and so she finds these ants and picks them up and has the ant bite the child right where that cut is on its hand or arm, and then it closes up that wound. 4 or 5 different bites, pulls the body off, the head still stays there, and that's like stitches. Quite a neat idea. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was, as the Spanish came in their history, okay, they were expecting Huitzilopochtli. They were expecting a white god to come in. They believed that the god would come in on what was called a one-reed year. Every 52 years was a one-reed year. So me personally, I think it was kind of meant to be. I know that might sound maybe harsh or whatever, but I think it was maybe meant to be, because what are the odds that the Spaniards would come on a one-reed year? So early on they were accepted in, and then later when they wanted to get rid of them, they really didn't have the means to do that. The Spaniards brought horses into them, introduced that to the Americas, and so that's kind of the way they were able to take over. They brought sickness and disease with them that these native people hadn't had before. And so I think that finishes up page 2. So thank you.